How many of you have been reading the Bible in your life? Could you raise your hand, please? Those of you who read the Bible? Right. Do you remember the golden rule in the Bible? Can anybody in the room quote the golden rule? Are you sure you read the Bible? Yeah, you got it down there? You remember the golden rule? Yes, ma'am? Yeah, you go. You read the Bible. Only do to others what you like others to do to you, right? Let's just listen to that phrase for a second. Only do to others what you like others to do to you. Now, would you agree with me, guys, just as human beings, regardless whether you're Christians or spiritual or not Christian or not religious at all, would you agree with me that's like okay quote? You know, only do to others what you like others to do to you. Isn't that an okay quote? Is there anybody in here who disagrees and said, hell no, I don't want to do that. I want to treat others in a way that I would never accept them treating me, you know. It's funny part is when I ask people around the globe about this quote, they always say, yes, that is a decent way of doing business. But the funny part is I actually meet people who are religious, who are Christians, who actually go to church every Sunday. And Monday morning, they step into negotiation and they demand, request, or threaten the counterpart to do something they would never accept the counterpart ask them to do. And then I get confused. So is it only something that happens in church on Sundays, or is it actually a way we should live? I had a terrible experience a couple of years ago, just pre-COVID. I was in Germany with a client, a major German corporation, and that was the procurement director that was my client, and we were negotiating with a supplier. And this German procurement director, he was, how can I put it nicely? Well, he was a son of a bitch. I can't put it any other way. He was really tough. You know, he was threatening the counterpart, he was demanding stuff, and he was doing this and that. And after the negotiations that went on for a few hours, we were standing out on the parking lot. I couldn't help myself, so I stepped out to this procurement director from the German company and said, that behavior you had towards the supplier, how would you have felt that the supplier had that behavior towards you? And then the German procurement officer looked at me very confused and said, but I'm the buyer, and he's the supplier. And then I got a little bit confused. I was thinking, is it mentioned separately in the Bible that if you're the buyer, then you accept it from this rule? So, and then I asked my German client, but how would you react if the supplier had that behavior towards you? And then the German looked at me and said, well, he would have been a real idiot then. Well, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because obviously it goes all around. Now, guys, do you know what we have studied? This is actually a serious study. We have studied and found that people who consciously or unconsciously are following this rule, they don't have to be religious or Christian or anything else, but if they follow that rule, regardless, they are more successful as negotiators than those people who don't. Now, I've been operating with the golden rule for several years, and I'm working globally. So I can be in Asia, or Africa, or North America, or Europe, or whatever, and I've been using the golden rule for years, as I just said. And at one point, I had met a lot of people who says, well, the golden rule doesn't apply to me because I'm not Christian. I'm Buddhist, or Hindu, or Jewish, or Muslim, or whatever. So the Bible doesn't apply to me. And I heard that a number of times. So about 5 years ago, I sat down and I looked at the 13 biggest religions in the world. And I know the text up here is tiny, guys, so it's hard for you to read. But you know what? Surprise, surprise. What do you think is stated in the 13 biggest religions in the world? Now, the phrasing is slightly different from one religion to another, but you know what? It says the exact same thing. Only do to others what you like others to do to you. Isn't that amazing, actually? Just think about it for a second. Thousands of years ago, when our ancestors were sitting here, preparing and writing these religious scriptures, right? They could sit everywhere around the globe. And this was before internet, so they have no chance of talking to each other, right? They could sit around the globe and they could all come up with the same phrase thousands of years ago. Now, if you're not spiritual or religious before you actually discover that, then you become spiritual or religious the second that you discover that actually happened. So guys, if there's one thing I would like you to leave with here today, is actually that thought. Step into negotiation and only demand and ask and request something from your counterpart that you'll be absolutely okay with the counterpart would be asking you. You will be more successful that way.